Okay, everybody. I think we'll go ahead and get started. It's 3:03, so I know there's some more people still hopping in, but we are recording this. For those of you that were on last month, this month I'm back in the office, so I feel much better about doing this from the office. Matter of fact, I have quite a few people in the conference room with me right now, but I do want to point out or mention a handful of people, and also have some other people joining a little bit later. To join in on the conversation with some of the features that we're talking through. But I do want to mention they do have Noelle in here.
Hi, guys.
So for those of you that know her, she keeps me sane and organized, and she's running the show right now with us. So she's taking all your questions, and I'll have her explain that here in a minute. But I will also have Dan joining us. Some of you know who Dan is. Most of you probably don't. He's one of the core platform developers here. I do have him joining us simply because when we start talking about Pipeline Manager, he's been working on a lot of the under the hood changes and the Pipeline Manager, and he knows, he has a general idea of where we're going with everything. Doesn't know all of it yet, but he's been doing a lot of the under the hood changes for everything. So as we get into the technical side, potentially of some things, I want him in here for that. So he's not here yet, but he will be when we start talking about Pipeline Manager. Then also I do have Franklin in here.
Hello.
And some of you may or may not know who Franklin is. So Franklin, he works in sales here, and he's pretty much our key account sales. So I wanted to pull him in, and we'll share a little bit more about this, but I wanted to pull him in because I do see somewhat of a disconnect of what our current clients are understanding of what we have, which is part of the reason for doing these webinars. Versus what some of our prospects, or especially the large companies, when we talk to them, when they see all the functionality we have, but they're getting a clean, fresh presentation, where most of you're all very busy, and that's why we're starting these up too, is to really highlight the important things as we see them, important for your business, and to get a better rhythm with that. But I want him in here to give some perspective, as well as some of the things that are resonating with some of the large prospects and large companies that have signed with us, and reasons why they've signed, with some of these features we're talking about. And then the last person I'm going to mention that's sitting in here is Harley. Hey, everybody knows who Harley is. I think Tech Tuesday has introduced you to everybody. So
to the point where I need no introduction.
No, I'm not even going to bother.
You can't tell, but I'm blushing right now.
Right. He's blushing because he's not on video, so he feels weird.
I do. I feel funny.
He's not on camera, but anyhow.
That's just from Kathy already.
So Harley's in here, and I have him sitting in here just from the technical support perspective, just with some of the things that he hears, from other clients, and potentially even from some of you. I think it's good that we just share some of that insight. So it's a little bit different approach this month as we continue to extend how we're doing this. But let's see how it goes, I guess. Do you want to do the housekeeping real quick?
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Noelle again. For housekeeping, let's just make sure that we use the Q&A. Last time I had chats come through, texts come through, emails come through, so it was a lot to handle. So if we could just focus on the Q&A, and if you guys have any questions, we will try our best to get to them. Cool tool about Zoom is I could export all those questions that you guys had. So if we, so I can disperse them to the team and use those for our resource. So I would really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and let me say this too. I want to emphasize this again, even more so than last month. We really appreciate your feedback and your comments. Especially as we talk about these two features, and from my perspective, especially the Pipeline Manager, and you'll hear why, just because I have a lot planned for that. I have big plans for Pipeline Manager. So really appreciate your feedback and your questions. And I want to go ahead and open up even and emphasize that even after this webinar, a few things that come to mind about the topics that we're discussing, please feel free to send in a ticket into support. Just with the feedback or questions, or hey, I thought of this, what about this functionality? I had someone that's a T3, and he even emailed me something, last night. It's like, yeah, good idea, and yeah, we're planning on doing that. So So anyhow, I want to emphasize that we want that feedback, and we're also, again, still trying to find a good rhythm of looping all of you in early enough to where we can get feedback earlier even than what we're getting right now with some of the functionality. So with all that said, the first thing that I want to touch on, the first piece of functionality, is actually something that we already have launched. But from my perspective, this is a big deal. And in my conversations with some of you or some of our clients, it went unnoticed. And then when I explained, no, here's what this is, then it was like, oh my goodness, I see that. I see what this is. Basically, we have our custom boundary creator. We built a tool in our platform that we launched how long ago, Harley? 2 months?
Yeah, it's been 2 months.
Yeah, 2-3 months ago. And really, it's the ability to create custom boundaries. And you might go, oh, what's the big deal? Well, let me explain what this is, and then I'm going to show you how it works, what it is, where my head's at, where we're going with it, and how you can utilize it, not just from a technical standpoint, but from a marketing standpoint in your marketplace. What I saw happening, let me give you a few different examples. What I saw happening, number one, from an MLS perspective, I started seeing MLS data become worse or become less accurate. And I'll just give you one example here in our local marketplace with our subdivisions. With the change in an MLS vendor, it's now more of a free-form subdivision section. And so what we would see is a whole bunch of different things typed in for the same subdivision. So you might see, and I'll use this example, like Carrington is a subdivision that we have. So I would see Carrington, as you would expect it, but then we would also see CARRPH 09 or 09 for Carrington Phase 9. I mean, you all know what I'm talking about with how the agents will enter things into the MLS or different things. And so we saw where wow, this is kind of a disconnected search where I really do believe in the power of doing a subdivision search or development search. That's one example. Another example is of an issue that I see is, let's just say you're in a coastal area, and I think of Florida and other areas or major metros where people know a building, or they know a development that might be 3 buildings, or I'm thinking of places down in Florida that I just know of, Ocean's 11, and it's a condo complex, an oceanfront, and it comprises, I forget how many buildings, but like 5 buildings there. But people know that. They search by that, not by the address of the building or of the unit. They know that. They know Ocean's 11, or you get the idea. So they know those types of things. And even just another example, I'll go ahead and use down in Florida. They'll know over in Naples, they'll know the different subdivisions there that can even be subdivided within inside of them. And that's how they want to search. But a lot of times the MLS doesn't support that. Or let's say the subdivision is so new, the data is not really there. Well, we saw that as a big problem, and we thought, wow, how can we really, if I had a real estate company, how would I want to really leverage myself in the marketplace and give myself a competitive advantage? So we launched what I considered phase 1 still. I mean, we'll see what feedback that we get. I have other things I want to do with it, but based on its utilization, we'll see. But basically what this is within the system, you have the ability to create a polygon, draw a polygon of a boundary that can power property search. So this is tied directly into property search. And I'll show you an example here live. So you could create a boundary and then go to your website and do a property search using that phrase. And here's another great example, even outside of the 2 I already gave. Let's just say in your marketplace, there's a specific area that's not really a geographic area. It's not really a subdivision, but it's like, here's one example, the art district. I know some cities have an area that everyone knows, oh, the art district, and there's, oh, I want to live in the art district. Okay, well, it's not really defined. Well, I thought it'd be awesome if you could define that and say, go to our website and search the art district from the quick search. What an awesome idea. So it's that type of concept that we came up with. And so let me go ahead and show you what this looks like. So I'm going to have to, give me a second here. I have to switch my share. There we go. So I'm going to give you an example here that's local and show you what this looks like. First of all, from an admin side, you have the ability only at an admin level right now to create these custom boundaries. These custom boundaries are unique within your company. And what I mean by that is, if you create a custom boundary and they're not shared with our other clients, if there are any, this is your data that you're building. However, these custom boundaries are shared down with your agents. So all your agent websites would have these custom boundaries available to them. But where you find this is from the admin side, under preferences and custom boundaries. And I've only set one up so far for this company here. And to give you an idea, let me go ahead and load up here. Give me a second, let me refresh my browser. So we have, I did one called Carrington Subdivision, just a test. Cancel that, I don't want to save that. So if I do that search, instead of just using the MLS data, it pulls in the polygon that I had and it takes me directly to that. I mean, pretty straightforward. It does what you think it would do. One thing I do want to note, we do have another subsequent change coming soon to how the quick search works with this, to where any custom polygons or any custom market areas that you've defined, those will take priority over MLS data, because and we'll probably end up with some customization there, but right now they are not prioritized towards the top of the list. We will be doing that, so that'll be coming very soon. But basically, where you can build out these boundaries. And what I like about this is, if I did this search, if I did it without this custom polygon, only 2 of the listings come up, because this other one is listed as something goofy. It's not listed as Carrington. I think it's CARRPH09 is what it's, or something like that, or 07. I forget how it was done. But that's just one example. So let me show you how these are. And again, these, you build them one time and they're done. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new boundary in here. And what I'm going to do, see if I remember where these are. I'll do Greenwich Place, and hardly remember I set these up, okay. Subdivision. And we give you the ability to do 3 types, like what we call a region. It spans multiple cities or counties, a district, so a subsection of an area or city, or neighborhood, which is subdivision, communities, etc. So it's important that you do try and categorize those properly. We do have additional functionality that we're going to be releasing related to these. And so properly categorizing these would be important to power that functionality in the future, is the best way I word it. But so you put in the name, and then you basically just go to the map and you select the area. And let me zoom into this one for Greenwich Place. And in this one particular example, this is it. I'll just draw it out here real quick. And what's nice here is, with the maps, you can see even the properties. So if you're a little unsure, you can do that. So I basically do that and hit save. And at that point, it's done. It's important to note that this might take sometimes, up to 30 minutes for these to take effect.
Yeah, I see the custom boundaries usually come in really quick.
Yeah, they're usually pretty quick, but they can take a little, up to 30 minutes, but they are pretty quick generally. They are generally pretty quick in coming in. And it's already there. So if I search for that one, there you see now it pops up. So again, basically you have the ability to custom define all of these, and then you have an entire library on your website of these. And I start thinking through, wow, where could this be really powerful? Well, you're representing a builder with a development. If you're in those areas where it's coastal, or people know areas based on a building name, or a larger subdivision, or if you have poor MLS data. I think those are all really good examples. You know, but basically, you can come in here and you can create your own library of these. I should also point out that at any time, you are able to edit these. So if I said, oh, the Carrington one was wrong, you know, I could come in here and edit it. It's not, so I'm not going to, but just, you know, just like you would any, you know, I could, you know, redo it a little bit, you know, so it's more properly drawn, or let's just say the subdivision. I think Carrington would be a good example because they're getting ready to extend it further, the subdivision. So when they do, maybe you just extend it. You don't have to redraw the whole thing. But anyhow, it's pretty straightforward, you know, with how this works. I don't know if there's any questions that you've received on this, Noel. You know, this one is very straightforward. Harley, have you gotten? I know you haven't gotten much feedback on this, but also we're tracking that it's not getting utilized a whole lot.
Yeah, we haven't seen a ton of questions on it yet. The only thing that I would point out specifically with this is that on the map search, it's selectable also. So you can type it into the quick search, but you can also select from the map boundaries, and you can pick them that way.
Yeah, yeah. So in the map boundaries, you know, you are able to, you know, select them here. You know, so you see those two who are now showing up there. You know, as an example. So again, very straightforward. But this is something that I could really see you leveraging in a marketplace and leveraging just from a marketing perspective. It doesn't take much time to build these out. Obviously, you'd have to build them out. But once they're built out, they're built, and you don't have to redo it. So yeah, if there's no more questions, I'm going to message Dan and have him come in. And we're probably, so on the custom boundaries, we do have a flyer on it. It's just a pretty basic, pretty straightforward flyer that just describes what these are. But I think one of the most important things is that this is tied into the quick search on the website. You know, so again, and we're seeing some comments from some people that, hey, yeah, this is kind of cool. And I really do think so. Again, you know, kind of put your marketing hat on for a minute. That you could start running marketing, you know, that none of your competitors can, you know, mimic that functionality without causing them some heartburn, so to speak. So anyhow, there is one question that just popped in. What was that one, Noah? That does the customer have to have a saved search account to utilize this feature? No, they don't. So again, since this just powers the quick search, or you know, since the quick search utilizes this data as well, anybody coming to your website can type in this, you know, those phrases or those markets, and utilize it, just like any website visitor. So, great. There's no more questions. We'll go ahead and hop on, continue on here. Okay. So the last part that here, let me pull in though, before we go into the next one. I do know, just Franklin, just real quick, I know from a sales front, this has been a big deal. Oh, absolutely. Especially, I would say this, especially for the enterprise clients, the larger, I would say for sure the 500 or 1,000 agent and above companies have been like all over this.
Sure, and I'll speak a little bit more on it. This is a big deal for companies that can leverage the search in their markets, because this is a big differentiator for you in your marketplace, because there are areas that people are interested in moving to that aren't searchable on a lot of websites like Zillow or your competitor sites, and to be able to create and define custom boundaries is a big deal, because it's another tool for you to be able to market to, that you have the most local search in your market, and that you have the ability to search for clearly defined subdivisions or areas that nobody else in your marketplace can leverage. It becomes a differentiator for you. So it is a big deal, and not very many other platform providers in this space have the ability to do this. And we're leveraging so many other components of our search that this can then filter down into market watch updates and all sorts of other components into the platform. So it is really nice to have.
Yeah, and with that, I do want to point out two things that are coming soon with this. So what you just saw, you have, it's live on the site, all of your sites. There is there is some functionality, some updates that are coming. One of them is the prioritization of these in the quick search, which I already mentioned. There's already a ticket in programming for that. Another one is this is not currently integrated into the like the market landing pages that we have. So, and this will get extended into the market landing pages as well to start powering that for deeper SEO on these markets that you're typing in, or not typing in, that you're creating. You know, so those are two things that are coming. And then one last thing that I want to mention is that where my head's at with this was when I mentioned this was phase one. I do have a phase two concept. I don't want to get into it too much just because but basically where we would extend it even further to where it wasn't necessary to do a polygon, where you could do it by streets and address ranges, some different things like that. You know, I don't know if that is very necessary at this point. You know, part of my thinking there was with some of the new subdivisions, the geocoding isn't quite accurate. You know, so that's where my head's there with that. You know, but anyhow, we don't have that functionality yet. We haven't been working on it. We wanted to see how this was adopted and then kind of go from there. So we do have a couple questions. Do the agents have the ability to create these on their own yet? I didn't think, not yet, no. So as of right now, the agents do not have the ability to create these on their own. I will say this, the technical framework has been built in so that they potentially could. We just have not provided that functionality yet. But what does happen is the agents do inherit any of the boundaries you've created. And what that means, so any of them that you created at the company level, the agents are able to utilize on their websites. So they could do the exact same searches on their website with the company level boundaries that have been created. It's great. So let's go ahead and hop into the next part, or the second thing I wanted to talk about today, and I think this will be the majority of the conversation here today, is our pipeline manager. So we've been working on bits and pieces of pipeline manager, wow, a long time, yeah, a long time. And let me just kind of explain what I think I need to share to set the stage for this is, this goes back to what I was sharing last month, is I really do believe that the agents are just looking for more simplification. They're looking for, in a good way, more hand-holding. Hey, just show me what I need to pay attention to. We're also getting more into the actual management of their business. I think that's a good thing. Ask anybody in here, I like my spreadsheets, I like my plans, I love that stuff. So setting a plan for the year. Hey, what do you want to make this year? Okay, what do you have to do? That type of stuff. I love that type of stuff. And we weren't doing any of that, and I want to get into it. The other part of it, though, too, is with where we were going with lead delegation and all the feedback we were getting from our clients of some third-party platform, some third-party technology they were using that, to be quite frank, they were wanting to ditch it. Or they said, hey, I'm using, and I don't want to name them, but we're using this platform over here, and we only use it for this piece. And if you could have something similar that could do similar functionality, that'd be awesome. Or another example is, hey, here's this platform over here. This part works really good, but oh my goodness, their fees are massive, and that's not good. And we have more and more companies, especially the larger firms, that are wanting to leverage their corporate developed leads much, much more. They're wanting to really hone in on that because of the referral fees, and they really want to mature that area of their business for obvious reasons. I don't need to explain that. So the ability to manage behavior on an ongoing basis, all of that stuff. The other thing too, and I'll briefly share this. I'm not going to get into this in too much depth. Well, in any depth, I'll just briefly mention this. For nearly 12 months, we were involved in a research study with North Carolina State University. And when was I down there? 2 weeks ago? Roughly 2 weeks ago, I was down there and got the final presentation. And I'll just mention we will be getting into lead scoring, but I believe it's the most advanced lead scoring in the industry. and the most accurate. And this was with 5 phenomenally smart grad students at NCSU. I mean, really smart grad students. I believe 3 of them are going on to Ernst & Young. I mean, just really smart kids. I guess I could call them kids. I'm old enough now. But kids, one was 30-something kids. So anyhow, really smart. And so we want to get into all of that, but get in a way where it's not, where it makes sense and it's as accurate as can be. And so this is where Pipeline Manager came into being. And before I hop over and start showing it, is one of the pain points that I had is where I want to take this is pretty massive. So what we will be releasing this month is version 1. We already have a whole bunch of changes already planned for version 1. And I would say for version 1, we had to do a lot of under the hood stuff. And definitely. So by the way, Dan's in here, who I mentioned was going to be joining us. He's nodding his head. Like, oh yeah, definitely a lot of changes underneath. We had to bring together a lot of systems that had been developed over the past 15, well, more now, past 19 years, and make them all be able to talk to each other and make more sense of the data. Is that a good summary of what you had to do?
That's a good summary.
So about 2 years of that. So anyhow, all of that was being done. So what we're showing is going to be version 1 of Pipeline Manager. And Pipeline Manager will be getting a good amount of work for the next 18 months. So it's, we're going to show this, we're going to launch this, plus probably a couple other features that we don't have ready to show yet, but a couple other features will make it in there before the launch this month. And then, we launch version 1 and version 2 is already being worked on. So this is not going to stop. So I guess what I'm saying is we really want your feedback on this, especially as it relates to, I guess, business management, managing the leads that are given to your agents, kind of that world of things, so to speak. But let me see if I can get this set up to share again, share the browser. And Franklin, as I'm doing this, do you want to touch on the feedback that you're getting, I think, from a sales front?
Yeah, so in general, the Pipeline Manager is something that's been really important to us at a prospecting level of talking to new brokerages, because something that in general that I've heard talking with brokerages, both Delta clients and potential Delta clients, is the DeltaNet just has so much stuff inside of the system. We wanted to put together a centralized hub for where agents could do a lot of the critical tasks all in one location, not need to jump around, bounce around to a bunch of different interfaces. And so really that idea spurred the initial design of the agent dashboard, or Pipeline Manager as we're calling it, where we wanted to have the majority of tasks that an agent needs to do to run their business on a day-to-day basis all together on one screen. So there's not a need to jump through 15 different tabs in one session. And so this is kind of, in my opinion, this is the first step towards an overarching change that'll be happening throughout the DeltaNet over the next year plus, where we're streamlining and optimizing the workflow of agents inside of the system to make it more intuitive and more easy to engage with. And so this is the first step in a very long road of changes that is going to be done by user interface research we're doing, the team at InDesign that's starting work on streamlining and optimizing different elements of the DeltaNet. This really was born out of that need to make an easy to use location for agents to run their business. And in building this, it helped when talking with prospects for them to be able to see that, while an agent can just automatically know as soon as they're logged in, set this as their pin screen of who has been active in their CRM, what are the activities they need to do for the day, and in general, see how close they are to reaching their sales goals, so that it's an incentive for the agent to log in and be able to track where their prospects are in a sales funnel. And so it just became an attractive page in the DeltaNet to show that, okay, even though there's all this stuff under the hood, there's 100 tabs on the left-hand navigation you can search through, you've got one location where you can see what's really important to the agents on this one dashboard. So that's kind of the direction that I've taken with it when I'm explaining it to new prospects who've taken a look at it. And I definitely want, the whole team wants more feedback about this particular part when it does come to user interface and what we think agents feel is important to have on what should be their central hub.
Yeah, the other thing too with this is, would you say, Dan, from going towards what Franklin's saying, we built this with a modular approach.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so we've done this where it's very modular, and for those technical people probably just, okay, I know what you're saying, but basically what that means is we've done this in such a way so that we can take the individual blocks and do different things with them, move them around, put them somewhere else, not just on this page, but just somewhere else in DeltaNet. So we're going more to that approach as well, because we do anticipate some ongoing changes here, and dare I say, I don't want to say this, customization possibly. We kind of cringe at that when it comes to training. Yeah, I think Harley's walking out the door right now. He's not. But even being able to customize this, how it works, how it's built for your company, because a lot of the larger firms want that too. Like they want their own dashboard for their agents, or give an agent the ability potentially of even customizing their own dashboard. So it was built with that in mind, whether or not we do that, or whether or not you would see the need for that for within your company. But let me kind of run through this and show you what will be there for launch when this is available. Also, I do want to point out, this is something that I haven't set a specific hard launch date with this, although this will launch by the end of this month. But what I mean by that is you won't have to launch this yet. This will be an optional launch for you. I can tell you all of our new clients that, the new clients that are onboarding right now and the prospects that have seen it, they want it. I don't know if we have any right now that are saying, no, don't launch it yet. But if that's something that you want to control the launch, I know some of the larger companies that are on this call want to do that because, hey, you have a lot of stuff going on and you're trying to time, you might say, hey, we want to launch this fourth quarter. Fine, whatever. You'll have an interface and we'll get that out to you. It's not live yet, where you will have to go, and I need to emphasize this, you'll have to go disable this for now. So by default, it'll be on for everybody prior to it even launching, but you'll be able to go in and say, no, I don't want that to launch. We'll make sure we send out multiple notices on that and emphasize it. We'll have that out there in about a week where you can do that, where you could just preemptively go and say, no, let's disable this, even though it's not available to go live yet. But then by the end of this month, this will be launching that version 1.
And we will have some training pieces on it and a video, so you guys can use it as a resource with your agents and your management staff.
Yeah, we do have, I have 3 printed out pieces in front of me right now. The what I would call admin management piece, the agent piece that you can take, and then the technical piece that you could pair with both those other 2 pieces. So let me kind of run through this. First, just to give you a quick overview. Really, at the top, there's just 3 links to different groups of things. Then you have a My Tasks section, single sign-on favorites, upcoming events, sales pipeline, and then any open leads. Well, I shouldn't put it that way. My leads section. Also in this, you can customize. There's different types of views that are available. You can have a gallery view or a list view of everything. Also, I do want to point out, and we're moving more and more towards this in the DeltaNet, where sections will be more touchable or tappable. We're somewhat trying to get away from buttons wherever we can. So like here, you see there's no buttons to do anything, but that's because you can tap the whole line, and then the to-do information comes up, or whatever it is, it comes up. So we're removing some of those buttons. I know that's more from a tech support standpoint. Some of the feedback we've received, it's just more intuitive to touch things now. Even some of the tracking that we've done, we see that agents really just, they're clicking in the line instead of the button to open something. So paying attention to that. But basically, at least at launch, up top, this will be their to-dos, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so at launch, the only thing that'll be featured at the top for My Tasks is basically to-dos. Ultimately, any activity that needs to get done or that should get done will be filtered into the top section. So you start thinking through like action plans, or you start thinking through, we will be getting into some some accountability, how do I word this? Some accountability management. Where if once we release that accountability will show up in here, that if you set accountability roles, that hey, any of our any of our leads that we've given to you, you have to touch them every 14 days, whatever the frequency is, with certain feedback. They'll pop in here if it hasn't been done, things like that. But anyhow, initially this will all be to-dos, but this will be like the holding tank for any activity that needs to get done. That's probably the best way I can put it. We could get in more detail there, but this will be a rolling list here. They will have the ability to filter, the list as well. And again, we tried to make this easy where they could tap it. It opens on a modal right there. They could deal with it, put notes in, and then close it. So it's not reloading the page. And let me run through a few things here. Actually, let me go ahead and address a couple of the questions that have come in so far, because the questions are centered around action plans, and we have a couple different questions. So action plan templates for behavior. We have worked on some. We do have some. But let me emphasize though too, this ties into everything that's already in your system. So for example, I don't know if all these companies have, but if you have already set up in our CRM, let me give you an example. Let's say you have a buyer's plan that you've set up in the system already, where there's 3 emails and 3 to-dos as an example. Those to-dos will show up in here. As you know, the emails will automatically go out. So this is already pulling from the system that's in place already. So it's not something completely brand new, which was a lot of the merging we've been having to do. So it's already feeding off the things that are in there. So if you already have action plans set up, they feed into this already. And as we extend that functionality with some of the things I was talking about accountability, that feeds into here. Basically, everything feeds into here. Additionally, where my head's at too, when you start thinking through a coaching side, if there are so many calls that, just as an example, when I show you the pipeline, if there are so many calls a week that an agent should be doing, or they should be going through their list, they'll get reminders in here if that stuff's turned on, which is not launched yet, but where, hey, in order to sell that much, you need to make 5 new engagements a week, and you only made 2 last week. So this week you need to make 8, something like that, and say, just, I got it, or whatever. So kind of like those types of reminders as well. We also have a single sign-on section. This is taking their favorites. Here's what we found is, especially for the large firms that cover a large geographic area, oh my goodness, we have some that have how many set up?
Probably 50 different ones and 5 different categories.
Yeah, we have. So some of our clients have at least 50 different single sign-on set up. Some are pretty basic and only have a half dozen or so, and everything in between. But what we found too is the realtors will favorite theirs, or sales associates will favorite theirs, and those are the ones that they kind of always use. That's it. Well, this section will have their favorites there. Ultimately, before this goes live, there'll be a button there to say add, and that pull up the whole list. They could add a favorite. Upcoming events. This is just pulling. Where's this pulling from, Dan?
From the leads calendar.
Yes. So we still have some. So is all that merging done at this point?
Yeah,
so that one is done. Yeah. So this does pull from the leads calendar that we have. So pretty much everything has been merged together. I do know for some of you here, some of the company events aren't filtering onto here yet.
No, company events aren't there.
Yeah, company events are not here yet. They may be there by launch this month. So I paused because I know we have some changes going on with calendaring. But ultimately, my plan there is to have, that's the calendar of events for the agents. Then here's where it's getting a lot of work. And Dan, why don't you kind of run through, after I give the introduction to it, run through kind of where we're at with it. Because we even have some projects going on now for some customization of some things that apply to this. So my whole thing with the sales pipeline, I just know Franklin knows this, from a sales standpoint, it's I don't know, if you're not tracking it, you don't do it, right? And even I know you track yours. I mean, so you know what's going on with everything. And as all of you know on this call, you're good salespeople, that's what they do. And all of you know this too. If you're involved on the coaching side at all, for those agents that aren't doing it, or they say, hey, what do I have to do to sell like Franklin does? Hey, it's pretty simple. Here's what you have to do. Here's the behavior. You just got to do it. And we all know it's simple, but apparently it's not, right? I mean, I don't know. So the whole concept with this was start to manage that behavior and create more insight into the potential dollar volume that they have right in front of them, and also to track what they've done that year. So they can set a goal for the year. So if they say, this would be pretty optimistic for this market here, you'd be pretty good. Other markets, you'd be pretty low. You might need to add a 0 to it, to be one of the top realtors. But so the realtor can set a goal, and then they can manage their pipeline and even segment their pipeline, and then manage the people in the segmentation. So you kind of want to explain what we have going on here a little bit, Dan?
Give me a drive or give me
Either way, whatever's easiest.
yeah, maybe.
Okay, why don't you come over? He's on the other side of the table, so he's coming over here. Yeah, and you'll have to forgive Dan. I'm on Mac. He's a Windows guy. So
Yeah, I've got my rubber gloves on.
we keep trying to upgrade them, but
All right. So as Mike mentioned, part of this process has been kind of consolidating systems and doing a lot of under the hood work. The first thing you'll notice here are these different steps in the funnel. We utilize the customer label system to kind of categorize these customers. I'm going to kind of jump over here to
yeah, you can keep that.
a customer and kind of show you how the differences in the customer center are going to impact the pipeline.
You can use this now. Yeah. All right.
So some of you may have noticed about a month ago, we kind of optimized and rearranged some of the elements of the customer center to kind of bring some of these items front and center. One of those being the customer label system. Okay. So if we edit this customer, the labels right here are going to kind of define where they are in the pipeline. We're working on an interface so that agents will be able to customize and rename and order these pipelines how they see fit. But then
What Ian mentioned, it'll be tiered as well.
yes, it'll be tiered as well.
So you as an individual company, if you train your agents one way, you can have that set up as your default, but then if you want the agents to override it, they can override it.
Okay. Another part that has been worked on in this area would be that's going to drive some of the calculations in the pipeline would be like the average price of the interested listing. So as you're working with a customer and you know they're looking at houses in the $150,000 range, you can kind of put that number in as an estimate for the calculations in the pipeline. Okay.
Do we have any of that data populating automatically yet?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Should we mention the average price?
what do you mean?
What you just put in. None of that's populating right now. The agent has to populate that.
Yeah, that's the average price of what they're looking at. So that is going to drive kind of the potential dollar volume. So essentially, they've not had a transaction yet, but we know that they're kind of looking at this range. So the pipeline is going to show that dollar amount of all the active customers for the calculation.
And by the way, it will take into account if they're selling and buying.
Correct.
So it could take into account the two sides of that. So yeah.
Okay. As Mike mentioned, agents will be able to kind of define their sales goal. We have the percentages here and what the average transaction amount is. So maybe if my sales goal is a little high, I want to go ahead and update that. So now you can see the calculation here. I need to make 4 transactions, about a 1 per quarter, to hit my sales goal. Oh, I only wanted $10,000. Okay, and so then this graphic is going to show me quickly where I'm at and how far I am along to meet that goal. As the customers are actually finalizing transactions. I'm going to go back over here to the customer center. So as the customer finalizes transactions, we've enhanced the saved properties to kind of segment and categorize the transaction. They can see the customers still have their favorites that they want, but then we can also add in here when the transaction closes. We can say that that's a sale, when it was, how much the transaction price was, and then if it's an investment or a primary residence for some future reporting. These transaction numbers then will going to drive the further calculations in the pipeline, so you got your year-to-date goals and everything on the per customer.
Yeah, and just so you know, we already have, in some companies I've shown this to, we are already getting questions, and we are already thinking down this road. We kind of have 3 tiers to this that we're thinking. The first one is given the ability to manually enter transactions. The second phase is kind of auto pulling in and having the agents verify off of sold data from the MLS, let's say. But then the third tier of it would be actual integration with different systems where we're just pulling in the transaction information and just auto populating. We wanted to be sure that we hit all 3 tiers, only because, if we didn't have an integration yet, it just made sense for us to do it this way. And ultimately, I think once we have the that second tier built where we're getting the transactions from the MLS, then we'll start prodding the agents. As long as you have Pipeline Manager turned on, we'll start prodding the agents. Hey, we see you did a transaction. Fill in the information so we can populate Pipeline Manager for you. And they just answer the questions or verify. Depends on how detailed the data is from the MLS, and then we'll populate it. So again, there's kind of a 3 tier there, but at launch they will have to enter the data.
The transaction, or I should say, the Pipeline Manager looks for year to date. So the numbers and the calculations are from January 1 of this year. So if you have a customer that bought, we'll say in 2017, and you have that transaction recorded in 2017, and then they come back and buy something in 2019, only that 2019 transaction is going to be included in this calculation.
Yeah, and we do have a question, and I do want to answer this one. So we do have a question from Lori. Can the manager see the status of their agents in their offices? As of right now, we're working to enhance the office reporting. I can tell you at launch, we will not have insight into the agents and their Pipeline Manager at launch. But what we're doing with the reporting on the office level is more on a lot of the activity or things that the agents have going on. We were getting a lot of requests from companies where they're wanting the office managers have more insight into what the agents have going on without having to dig into every agent. So kind of like a dashboard matrix. And what do we call that? What's that report right now? It's
it's not the user engagement report. It's the
yeah, I can't think of the name of the one that we just set up so that it could be emailed out automatically once a month. User engagement. Yeah. So the user. Yeah, so I thought so the user engagement report is going to be getting extended here. So we have a couple projects where that's getting extended. I just want to mention that. But I do have planned to have kind of like an office pipeline insight. So you can see what's going on and drill down into it. So if you have specific things that you're looking for at an office level or that your office managers would love to hear about it. So that we are sure to hit your needs, I guess. And so we have another question as related to the the sold properties. So by putting transactions in there, did the customers see that?
No, only the favorites are shown to the customer.
Yeah. So none of the sold or the purchased properties are seen by the customer. I'm just reading some of we're getting a few different questions here. Oh yeah. And then at a corporate level, obviously this will filter up to a corporate level. We are also, where my head's at with that too, is, and I know I need to be careful with some of this stuff, is office performance versus best office in the company, and kind of some stuff like that. I want to be kind of careful with that, but having a benchmark in there, especially internal with a company. But again, I want to be really careful with that, and that might be an optional thing to turn on or off. But yeah, we will have it rolling up to a corporate level then as well to see this type of reporting at a corporate level. Yeah, and other people are saying, yeah, the corporate level would be awesome. So, yeah, and then so we have some bits and pieces that we're doing here, but you have the idea of what this is, where it's going. I can tell you that the big part of what we're doing, though, where you're going to start seeing a lot of the development, is streamlining the pipeline and being able to manage it. This top section is going to get a lot of work after launch right away. Dan, I've been talking about that section for a long time. So that section is going to be getting a lot of work, and especially in the area of delegated leads, for those of you that are using delegated leads, and accountability with those delegated leads, not just within the company, but within teams too. Yeah, I didn't mention we'll ultimately have team tiering to this too. So there could be insight at a team level for team lead or team manager can see what's going on within their own team and manage that. So yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. I think you kind of get the idea. Are there other questions with what we have going on here? Anything that you guys can think of? There's more popping in. Anything that you guys can think of that I didn't mention with some things that are related?
No, I think the only thing I would add is that this, as you just reiterate, that this will be continuing to evolve, and the goal is eventually to get more automations into this. Obviously, phase one is a manual approach, but the goal is long-term to integrate with other transaction management software to auto-populate a lot of these fields and the data inside of it. Obviously, usage rates will be lower as agents have to manually enter information in, but this will continue to grow and evolve over the course of this year and into next year.
Yeah. Yeah, let me see some of the, I'm reading the questions here. You read the top one, Dan, and I'm gonna.
The transaction is linked to the user. So it doesn't matter if it's a buyer or a seller transaction.
But is that property is tied to that? I mean, we do have them tied to that. They would be tied.
Yeah.
So yeah, the answer, yeah. So Courtney, your question. So here's the question: adding a listing like sellers, can the system link the seller to the listing? Like the sold listing, and then fill in the pipeline, or someone selling a yeah, it does, and I think it accomplishes what I think we're on the same page there. We might want to get clarification on that just to ensure, and Noel's going to make a note of that. So yeah, teams that launch or not, most likely not. Probably not, but probably very soon. And the only reason I say that is because the team stuff we've been doing has been massive, and for those of you using it, you know that it's getting utilized a ton. So tracking commission goals or just sales. So it's kind of both. So really we're having, so we're tracking the dollar volume, and so when you adjust the sales goals, it's really saying, what do I want to earn this year? And let me go. So what's your average side? So I'd appreciate feedback here. I know how quite a few different companies operate, and I know when I have conversations with them, it's like they know what these numbers are. I do have some heartburn with how we define splits. We might have to define that differently for different companies, or to know if agents would understand that. But average transaction, average side percentage, and then the company split. We may end up switching the company split field to more something simple like 70-30. And I can say this too, we don't have a good solution yet for a graduating scale. For those of you that operate, say, on a graduating scale with your splits. It's throughout the year with the same age. So if you start at 50/50 or whatever, then it graduates to whatever it graduates to. We're not accommodating that just yet. We've talked about it, don't have a solution for it. We can come up with one, but that's where I need feedback on that as well. So this is a really good question, actually, that we got here. Yeah, referral fee. Yeah. Yeah, and back to the splits. Yeah, I get the referral fee side as well, and not just inbound referrals and outbound, but even intercompany referrals for those of you that operate that way, with a referral fee off the top on an internal lead that you give to the agents. And then I think this goes into really, I got to tell you where Mike heads at with a lot of this and helping the agents to manage their business is, let me see if I can summarize this one. It's a long one, but it's a good one. So here's the question. I'll kind of summarize it this way. It's from Rachel. So she would like to have a better way, or to have more ability as an admin to ask the agents for updates on company-generated leads, or to easily see updates they may add. Yeah, so right now it's only notes. Okay, so where I'm going with accountability is ultimately what you're going to be able to do, and we will not have this at launch with this, but we may have this yet. I don't know if we'll make it yet this quarter. For sure, third quarter, I know we're going to have this, where let's just say you're referring out leads. Let's use this as an example. You could automatically have on there where certain behavior then is required, and that behavior can be feedback. So where you're requiring, hey, any leads that we give that have an F code in our system, or just as an example, that automatically this feedback action plan is required on it, until it either closes or goes cold. And where you can actually require the agents to respond back with feedback on a timed interval on that lead, or require certain behavior on that lead in a certain interval as you define. And I'm going to have some pre-built plans for that. So I really do believe in that, and I think it makes sense. But then also there will be an admin dashboard as well to get insight into that, to see it. So that's already planned too. Yeah, and Kathy, that's exactly where we're going. That's exactly where we're going. And I do have to say this too. Part of the feedback that we received from the NCSU study on lead scoring, and I'll give you the really high level because I'll share more next month, like I said, next month on this. But ultimately what we did is we shared a lot of data with one of our large clients with NCSU, and we shared with them activity data, we shared with them transaction data and behavior data that we had, and then also realtor data that we had, and that company had. And what they came back with was a pretty doggone, the most accurate lead scoring I've ever seen in real estate. And so it was a lot of work. It was actually 8 months of work with them. So we spent, a good portion of a year working on this. And ultimately, when it comes in, because some of the things that were mentioned there was what behavior is meaningful. We actually know now, at least have insight into this, as to what type of behavior is meaningful that leads to a transaction. So, and I really want to start leveraging that and start promoting those things and pushing those things. And again, I'll share more about that next month, but we're going to tie in what we've learned with the pipeline manager and with the CRM, and we are going to get into lead scoring. So the reason why I never got into lead scoring was I felt all of it that was out there, at least, and again, this is my opinion, all of it was pretty much crap. I thought it was just kind of making up a number. Hey, this one's a 90%. Well, what made it 90%? Well, they did this, this, and this. I'm like, okay, well, why do you say that? But also, not only does this, here's what the neat part about this study, not only did it score the lead, it also then scored the agents as to what are the top 5 agents that would be most likely to close transaction with this lead. So, which was really interesting, very, very interesting data. And we'll be implementing all of that into our platform. So there were some more questions popping in. You handled them all. Any more questions on the pipeline manager? I don't see any. Yeah, so does the lead scoring take into consideration all the features used? Yeah, it does actually. It takes in, it was over 24 points it was taking in. Yeah, and I'll get into it's, trust me, this was an exhaustive, I have like a binder of all the research, and we have formulas, and we have applications from all of this. So it's computer programs to run against the data. So yeah, it's not a very simple model. And here was the best part about this research study is it looked at multiple scoring models, and then it said, okay, this type was the most accurate from an analytics standpoint. So pretty in depth. Well, let me kind of close out the pipeline manager with this. This is going to be getting a ton of our attention in the next 18 months, and it's not so much the pipeline itself, but all the things you can do with it. So yeah, the pipeline, the coaching side of it, I'm very intrigued with that. The tasks section, I'm very interested in getting into the management of the tasks of the agent. And not just that, but then requiring behavior, I'll put it this way, requiring behavior on the leads that you've paid to generate. You know, so I'm kind of the mentality, if they want to blow their own leads, that's kind of their business, I guess. That even gives me heartburn because you're there to help them. But the flip side of that is, hey, anything that you worked hard to generate, you know, to me, those have strings attached to them. So that's where we're going with this, at least giving you that ability to do that. So anyhow, and just so you know, Lorraine, we are doing it by phase. We probably just have it populated that way with sample data, but the pipeline is by phase of the funnel. So not necessarily at the top. At the top doesn't mean you'd have 50 people at the top necessarily. You know, so yeah. So anyhow, if you think of more questions after this, please send them in to support, or any feedback, or anything that you say, hey, here's something that's out there or feature that we would love to see. Message that in. We have a lot of that already that's going on, but we want your feedback. And again, as a reminder, in about a week here, we'll have the ability to where you can turn this off. And then version 1, which will look predominantly like this. There's a couple other buttons that'll probably be in here live, but this is what will be available then for launch at the end of this month. So at the end of May, this will be launching. So if you do not want it to launch just yet, you need to shut it off. We'll get this recording out, all the material out to you in the next couple of days here with everything. So yeah. Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Anything that anyone else wanted to add that I missed?
Yeah, there's just one last thing I wanted to mention. We've gotten a lot of feedback over the last couple of months about our correspondence about features like this going directly to agents. And so I wanted to kind of have a really brief discussion with Mike just to bring to you guys so everybody knows that we've heard feedback loud and clear from brokerages that want communication handled about new features handled differently. Delta's always been between a rock and a hard place, that some brokerages want the communications going direct to agents, some want it direct to office managers, and other companies want it only going to root admins. And so, Mike, if you don't mind speaking a little bit about that and just...
Yeah, so this is one of the things that, you know, the majority of our companies operate differently in one manner or another, all the way from the end of, hey, send everything to our agents, you know, communicate everything. And if we don't send something to them, they're asking us, hey, why didn't you send that out to our agents? You should tell our agents about it. All the way to the other end of the spectrum, where we have awesome companies that have a great team and some of you are on here, that communicate well with your own agents, and you position things well as I would if I were in your shoes. And as you know, that's why we are doing these pieces the way we are, where it's not Delta promotional, it's kind of neutral, so you can promote, quote unquote, your technology. You know, but how do we help empower you more? So where our head's at with this, and what we've been discussing, I'd say really for the past 3 weeks or so, pretty heavy, is we're going to end up with a section in the DeltaNet where you'll be able to manage your settings on how you want communication to happen, and you will most likely be able to see the communication that is available or scheduled to go out. But again, for those of you that don't have it going out to your agents, you'll be able to do something with that then from your end. We're really feeling out how we can communicate better and more frequently with the companies that want us to communicate with their agents, but then at the same time empower the companies that don't want us to, but empower you more so that you could, giving you those resources. So for those of you that have given us feedback on both ends of that spectrum, it hasn't fallen on deaf ears. We are listening, and we will be coming out with something to address that. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Franklin. Anything else? I know there's more questions, but we'll answer those after the webinar here. So great. So thanks, everybody. And next month, like I mentioned, I know I'm going to be talking about the lead scoring, at least giving you a heads up on that, and I'll be reviewing that, and we'll get something out. We'll let you know what else is coming during that one. So please send in your feedback, but thanks for your time.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.